Well, thanks so much for joining in. I hope today's session is really beneficial for you guys. Really what we're going to talk about today is scalability. I use $10,000 a month as passive income as kind of the subject matter because that is just so happens to be like the number one number we hear all the time. And our goal is always to help people accomplish their goals. And it's really about whatever your financial goal is, how can we help you do that? We'll talk a little bit about our company, Rent Retirement, and then we have a great panel. I have probably 15 minutes of slides talking about how we can potentially help you, as well as using some unique tax strategies and different things that I personally use over time to grow my portfolio. So let's go ahead and get started here as everyone's coming in. And the panel that I selected to be up here with me is a group of professionals that has helped me scale my portfolio significantly over time, and I think it help you do the same thing. My name's Zach Lemaster. I'm the founder and owner of Rent Retirement. How many people have heard of our company before? I would hope. Is there anyone that's invested with us? A few? Excellent. I know some of you guys stopped by the booth, so thank you for that. We've been partnering with Bigger Pockets for about a decade now. We're the number one turnkey company across the country. We work in 18 different markets. We sell thousands of houses across the country, helping investors like you grow your portfolio. I started as an optometrist, by the way. I was one of these people that was not full-time real estate, and I didn't want to be full-time in real estate. I just so happened to come into real estate, though, and I was also someone that hated my job. I really enjoyed helping people see, and I still do that. I'm still licensed, and we practice on a volunteer basis. My wife and I, she's also an optometrist. I was a captain in the Air Force for 7 years. I came into real estate about 50 years ago when I bought my first duplex, and I house hacked that. It was a VA loan, no money down, no mortgage interest, lived in the top half, rented out the bottom half, kept that and moved out. And over the past 15 years, I've invested every single year, and I've grown a very large portfolio today. That cash flow is net over $1 million annually. I don't say that to boast about myself. I say that because it took me 15 years to get there, but I have invested consistently over time. And I think that's the true key to success in investing is doing it consistently. I haven't made money on all my deals. I've lost a lot of money in real estate, but as one of my mentors always told me, said, Zach, I've lost a lot of money in real estate, but I've made more than I lost. It's all about consistency over time. Our goal at Rent Retirement is to provide you with the best investment opportunities across the country where our team handles everything for you. In addition to that, we provide wholesale type of pricing on new construction properties because we are moving thousands of properties as a company, and we have a community of over 1 million investors that is doing significant volume. And because of that, we get to go to national builders and we get to negotiate wholesale type of pricing that we pass on to you as the investor. And then we have a comprehensive team in each market that we operate in to handle everything for you. This is a picture of an example of property for us. So like I said, we work across 18 different markets. We also go to lenders that create new lending products, or we have lending partners that can do specific type of investment loans that you may have not heard of before. For example, we have investment loans where you can buy properties with as little as 5% down on multiple investment properties. This is a true investor loan. And we'll use this in some of our examples to show you how you could potentially scale your portfolio. The builder incentives, like I was talking about, we're going to go through an example of a $300,000 house. And this is the numbers that we're going to talk about are applicable to any house you're buying locally. This is just the average house that we sell as a $300,000 house. Let's say that our community has a 10% incentive on that buying through Rent Retirement. That means you have $30,000 you can use as a price reduction. You can get cash back at closing. You can use it to buy a rate down into the threes. And it could be very, very powerful. And that's how you could grow your portfolio. We work in a lot of different markets. But let's talk about some unique tax strategies and different things that you can use to scale your portfolio. Show of hands, how many people have done a 1031 exchange? Has anyone completed one? Couple? How many people have done a cost segregation study? Done accelerate? I love that. Those two things have been the single most effective way for me to grow my portfolio over time. Being a tax-efficient investor is extremely important. If anyone has ever listened to me, they know that I love the tax strategies around real estate because real estate has the best tax strategies available. I'm not a CPA, but we have a very good one. Her name's Amanda. You'll hear from her shortly. But just think about this for a little bit as we move through this. I'm going to do some examples on different things that we are using, that our investors are using, and we're helping people do to scale their portfolio, because it's all about scalability, right? If we want to achieve financial independence through rental real estate, it's about building the portfolio. No one's going to retire with one house, more than likely. So let's use this example of this 5% down loan option where someone is buying a house where they're putting 5% down. And by the way, this is the 30-year loan, 10-year term. This comes from local credit unions. It's available. This is not something specific to us. You can use this with your own products, by the way, your own investments. Obviously, you have only 5% down on a property. It may not cash flow as well as having 25% down. But this is something that we use, that I've used to stretch my capital further to buy more properties when it makes sense. On that $300,000 house, $60,000 is 20%. Or you put $15,000 down to buy that house with significantly less money. What you could also do is match it with like our builder incentives, for example, where if you have 10% cash back at closing, that's $30,000, and you put $15,000 down, quite literally, you can buy a house. You can get paid to buy a house, and people do that. And then they can use some tax benefits to either expand their portfolio from there. So those of you who haven't done cost segregation studies, I highly encourage you to learn about that. This is something, honestly, everyone can do, but there's a lot of confusion around the right way to do it. Anyone can accelerate the depreciation on their property, but where it becomes significantly powerful is when you could take that accelerated depreciation and offset your active income with it from your W-2, any other source. And we won't get into the weeds here, but you can do that by being a real estate professional like I am. I started a business in real estate. I think that's one of the best things you can do to grow your portfolio. You could do it through a short-term loophole where you self-manage the property. For the calendar year you buy it, the next year you could turn it over to management or you can keep managing it. But this is a really creative way we've helped grow our portfolio. So let's use this $300,000 house example. I usually run my napkin math on cost segregation studies of 30%. That's an easy way for me to evaluate what my cost savings are going to be. On a $300,000 house, 30% is $90 here, right? So you would assume if you're going to buy a $300,000 house, probably have a accelerated depreciation around $90,000. Think about if you bought $1 million worth of real estate, $300,000, right? So if you put, say, 20% down, your average down payment on $1 million worth of real estate, you get a $300,000 tax deduction. That makes sense because we're back at bonus depreciation, which is 100% this year. Think about this, though. Let's say you buy that $1 million worth of real estate, but then you put 5% down. That's $50,000 down to get a $300,000 tax deduction. That could be extremely powerful. Take that a step further. And these are things that people are doing. You can do this on your own. We can help you do this if you want to invest with us because of the builder incentives. But we have a lot of our high net worth clients. Our typical investor is someone who is just maybe first getting started, or someone who's first getting started out of state, or someone who's a highly professional that doesn't want to self-manage their properties across the country, or someone that just wants to buy investment properties in unique areas. Think about this. If you buy, say, the same $1 million worth of real estate, putting 5% down, that's $50,000 down, but those new builds have a 10% kickback, you get $100,000 back, you can create quite a significant tax deduction while also growing your portfolio. So this is just something that I think is, my goal here today is not to go through everything with you, but just to give you little nuggets of knowledge that may be interesting for you to explore in the future. Let's talk about how we get to that $10,000 a month in passive income. I'm just curious, and don't be shy, you've done this. Has anyone gotten to this point in this room yet? I love that. And that's just a random number, and it doesn't have to be $10,000 a month. It can be whatever, right? Investing is an individual journey. This is how, some of these strategies is how I achieved this and then surpassed this to replace my professional income early on. So let's think about this $300,000 home example. Let's say net cash flow is $500 a month, which is realistic on some of the areas that we work in. If you get to 100 or 10K a month, you need 20 homes. Like you'd be buying one house 20 years, be buying 2 houses a year for 10 years. There's a lot of different ways that you could do this. Let's talk about stacking. Monopoly, the game of Monopoly is really investing, right? At the end of the day, it's trading out that house for a hotel or a fourplex and continually doing that over time. I'm going to go through I'm going to run through this really quick, guys, because I want to get the panel out of here. But this $300,000 house that we'll call it a 7% appreciation. Does anyone think that 7% is realistic today, by the way? I see some frowns out there. We have some markets that are doing much better than this right now. We've averaged 9% appreciation over the past decade across all markets. Guys, there are markets right now that are doing very well. It's all supply and demand. You got to invest in areas that have a deficit of housing. So $300K house, 7% per year appreciation, that's $21,000 of equity. you're paying down the loan, you're building equity through appreciation and the loan pay down, right? We'll call that $4,000 a year, kind of averaging that. Obviously, the amortization increases over time. So let's say you have $25,000 of equity in year one after buying this house from appreciation and debt reduction. Hold it for 5 years, you have $125,000 of equity through appreciation and debt pay down. Plus, don't forget, you had your initial $60,000 of down payment. That's $185,000 of equity that you have over 5 years in theory. So you could sell this property, not pay capital gains, 1031 exchange it, buy 3 of those same houses without injecting any more capital into your portfolio. This is just trading up and scaling. And this is what all successful investors do to some degree. It could be a multifamily home. It could be buying multiple properties. Whatever the case is, you absolutely have to think about this and how you could scale your portfolio, because the most limiting factor in growing your portfolio is capital. We all run out of capital at some point in time. So think about it, bought one house in year one, and you didn't invest this in another house at all. You can see how your cash flow will grow over time just going through a 1031 exchange every 5 years in tripling your portfolio. Let's say you started with 5 homes in year one and you didn't invest again. You could see how that grows over time. And we're not factoring in rent growth, but in this example, just buying 5 houses in year one and not buying a single other house, you could be at $22,500 a month in passive income. That's pretty significant, just letting real estate do what it does over time. But we all know that we want to consistently invest, as I talked about at the beginning. So think about this for a moment. You guys, this is exactly how my wife and I replaced our income as doctors within less than 6 years. There's nothing special. There's no secret sauce. I wasn't using 5% down dominoes on this stuff. Like, this is just buy a house or multiple houses every year, letting real estate do what it does, buying in good areas with good teams, and consistently doing that over time and using the tax advantages to grow my portfolio. And so this example shows someone buying a property year one and buying one property every single year. And then once they have enough equity, in this example, it's 5 years, trading that one house up for 3. This could be extremely powerful. And doing that, you think, so in year 5, in this example, you do your first 1031 exchange. In year 6, you do your next 1031 because that's year 2 you've held for 5 years, so on and so forth. The point is that if you do this, the compounding effect of your income and your net worth is extremely, extremely powerful. And the last thing I'll say, who's heard of the term tax-free income with rental income? That's something, right? I mean, hopefully we all have. That's something that is really powerful, because if you think about it, if you have $100,000 of income from your rental portfolio and you're not paying any taxes on it because you got a bit CPA, you're doing it right, you're offsetting it with depreciation, normal depreciation, mortgage interest, property management, tax, insurance, all those things offset the income on the property, which we all should be doing on our rental portfolio. Really, you're not paying taxes on that income. So that $100,000 could be worth $150,000, $160,000 of earned income. That's significant, and that's very powerful. In this example, investing, one house a year for 10 years, if you got close to $250,000 of earned income, that could be close to $400,000 of the equivalent of earned income. And if you had to pull that same amount from retirement savings at 4% rule, that'd be close to $10 million in income. So I'll probably stop here. I want to get the panel up here, guys. I do want to ask one thing has anyone heard of the ideal formula? I mean, this is something we haven't came up with, but is really true to what we focus on. It's talking about all these concepts of building wealth and real estate over time. I is for income. That's your cash flow on your property. D is depreciation. E is equity buildup as a tenant is paying the loan down. A is appreciation, and L is leverage, which is extremely powerful on real estate. Those are all the ways you build wealth in real estate over time. And I really would encourage everyone to take time to understand the math behind those, because for a lot of newer investors, the cash flow, the I portion, the income, is what we tend to focus on. And what I found over 15 years of investing, building a high-figure portfolio, is that the other areas with the ideal formula is where you truly build wealth. In my portfolio today, the cash flow, yes, it's nice to have, but that is the least impactful thing in growing my portfolio, my net worth. The depreciation, the tax benefits, the debt reduction, appreciation, even at a very small amount, compounds wealth over time. So with that, let's go ahead and get our panel up here. We have a lot of good questions prepared for you guys. Yeah, we're running out of time. This just started. And I'll introduce them as a log up, but I also want to hear from them as well. So we have, please listen to Amanda Hahn at some point. She's talking like multiple times. She is a tax wizard. Let's go, Amanda. Steve Yoke. There is. Anyone invested with Steve? We do hundreds of houses a year in Ohio. Steve started as a teacher. I'll let him tell this story. Jeff is our preferred lender at Blueprint Mortgage. He does an excellent job. And if you've invested with us, you probably know Adam. He's also a real estate wizard. So if you guys would just go down the line, maybe Jeff will start with you. Can you just give us a 1-minute intro about yourself, your background in real estate, and why you're here?
So thanks, Zach. My name is Jeff Welgan. I'm the VP of Investor Lending at Blueprint Home Loans. I've been in the business now. It's going on my 22nd year, and we are a nationwide direct lender. We're selling loans directly to Fannie, Freddie, and Ginnie for all of the primary residence, secondary investment property options that are available through the government. And then we now have 14 different relationships set up on the secondary market for non-conventional financing, like the DSCR loan. There's a business bank statement loan for business owners, asset qualifier loan for our clients that have money in the bank but may not have documentable income. And we also do fix and flip loans. We do commercial, ground-up construction. So we're really a one-stop shop for real estate investments, so you can easily change markets and change strategies, what have you, change lenders.
Love it. My name's Steve Yoke. I'm from Akron, Ohio. As Zach said, I was a middle school teacher for 8 years. So after 8 years of teaching, me and my wife were pregnant to have a kid, and we both got layoff letters for the district we were in. It was kind of like my kick to go in full-time in real estate. So that was 4.5 years ago. It was my last day teaching pupils at a team in 2021. Currently on pace to do 200 flips in Akron, Canton, Ohio. I always joke I'm a volume flipper. So we buy 10, 20, 30 houses a month, renovate them. We sell a lot of them. I also keep rentals. So right now we're at 80 properties as my own personal rental portfolio, just in Akron, Ohio.
Steve, does that pay better than teaching?
Yeah.
A little bit. So those that are still working a W-2 job, you can do it. You can get out of your W-2 job and go full-time real estate. Totally possible. So Amanda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Hahn, and my company is called Keystone CPA. Some of you might have heard me on Bigger Pockets podcast. My husband and I wrote 2 books about tax savings for real estate investors. And what I typically tell people is that I'm a CPA by day, and we run our CPA practice, where we help real estate investors nationwide on how to use real estate to save on taxes. And by night, I am an investor just like you guys. So in addition to taking care of 2 boys with our busy life, we also invest in real estate just like many of you here. I'm super excited to be here on this panel. Everything that Zach just said are music to my ears. All the different ways that you can use real estate to not just build wealth, but also save on taxes are the kinds of things that I'm really passionate to talk about.
Sorry. What? So my name is Adam Schroeder. I'm the sales director and acquisition director at Run for Retirement. I started investing in real estate about 8 years ago or so. Bought and sold a little over a dozen properties, I believe. Kind of lost track. Probably should know that. But I've been helping people build your portfolios for the last 6 or 7 years. Really love talking to investors, figuring out their goals, their strategies, and how we get them there. Everybody has different goals and strategies. One property might work for one person and not for another. So it's important to remember that you might see a deal, and if you know another investor who it will work for, just network at places like this and end it off, and it'll come back around to you. So seeing the power of real estate, that's some sells and buying others and do a cash out refinance, all the things you could do to scale your portfolio. So that's me. That's great. How many people have invested out of state? I'm just generally curious. That's a fair amount. That's great. I live in Denver, Colorado, and we do some short-term stuff there, but I mainly invest out of state because Denver's expensive and taxes are high and all the things. And that's another thing that I found to be very strategic for me. And that was a pivotal moment for my life. When we first started investing, we invested low boat because that's what felt comfortable, and we view our market, and there's nothing wrong with that, and that's great. But there was a pivotal moment where we started to look at different areas throughout the country where we saw better investment opportunity, a better fit for our goals, where the population was growing. And once we did that, It was a catalyst to growing our portfolio because properties performed better and we were more strategic around where we were investing. And it's daunting at first because you don't understand a new market. You got to build a team. You can certainly do that on your own. We can help you with that. My main point here is that I would highly encourage everyone to at least explore ideas of investing outside of your own local area when it's right for you, because there's a high likelihood that there's a better market out there than just your local area. So that's just something to think about. I have a few questions prepared for the expert panel here, and then we want to hear from you guys. I really want this to be interactive and answer your questions because that's where I think the true learning happens. But let's go down the line, and I want to start with you. Since we're talking about scaling your portfolio, what is the number one thing you see your clients doing or that you're doing that have achieved that $10,000 a month in passive income?
I think the key thing is really looking at your portfolio and seeing how you can use the properties you have now. Because like Zach said, you're going to run out of capital at some point if your bank account's going to look a little empty to buy one. But it's important every year to look and see, how can I use the properties I have to get more properties? Because if you kind of, I don't want to say more cash flow, but if you look at the 5-10 year plan that you have, you might say it's really worth pulling out $60,000 of this property, drop my cash flow today, because I know I could acquire these other properties and scale up and have more. That as rent growth happens and your equity builds again, you put yourself in a much better situation 5-10 years down the road when you'll look back and thank 2025 Adam for what he did to get to 2030.
That's great. Amanda, what are you and Matt doing, and what are you seeing your most successful clients doing to get that number to surpass that?
Yeah, and I think if we're talking about, how do we build wealth faster? For me, as a CPA, it comes down to the numbers. So I love that, Zach, you said it's a lot of times when we start out, we think we must invest in our own backyard. And for a lot of us, it just doesn't make sense if you look at the numbers. I mean, I'm in California. And so for us, it's really about buying the properties that are actually going to help you achieve your goal. I think we're all like extreme side. For us, we are, because we spend most of our time looking at the numbers more so than at the property. And so I believe that if you're buying in the right properties, and of course you add on all the tax benefits on top of it, that's a much faster way to get that net cash flow or appreciation. And I also agree, we want to look at the whole picture. So we have clients who their main point is cash flow because they want to retire soon. Then I have other clients who don't care as much about cash flow. They have plenty of money from their W-2 job or their business, where for them, it's more about tax savings, but building equity for the long run. So I think being very clear about which one is more important, even though, of course, we want cash flow and appreciation, but if we can't get both, then we want to be clear on which one is more important based on what my current needs are and what I expect to do.
All about setting goals, Bella. Steve is someone who doesn't invest. I don't know if you invest out of state or not, but
I have one Airbnb in Myrtle Beach, and I went through 3 door handles this summer. Can't quite figure out why. The door handles, man, they really tick people off.
Thanks for that. I mean, all things considered, that's minimal maintenance in my opinion. But Steve is a guy who's become a powerhouse in his local market, and everybody knows Steve in Akron, Barberton, Canton, Ohio. He's the guy. But he's built that over time. So Steve, obviously, and Steven mentioned he does some really unique stuff in investing through his IRA, lending to himself, and that's another unique strategy. So feel free to ask your questions on that. But Steve, what do you think? What's the biggest thing, I guess, for you? Let's say for you, what's the biggest thing that's allowed you to get past that $10,000 a month of passive income?
Yeah, I think a lot of people talk about like leverage in like a financial way. You need to focus on like also leveraging relationships. So I'm on base of like 200 houses in a 20-mile radius, and I buy them all through wholesalers. I make myself the easiest person to work with, and I create that relationship with each individual that I'm buying a house from. So as soon as they get something in the Akron Canton market, I am the first call. I'm there taking pictures for them for free, bird dog, whatever you want to call it. I'm just fostering that relationship. And then comes down to consistency. I bought my first property in 2013. It was a duplex. I was house staffing it as a teacher and just build up as much capital as possible. So whether to build your capital to keep buying your W-2 job, or whether that's flipping houses is where I got a lot of capital to invest in the rental properties. So I think it's consistency and leveraging relationships. It's something that totally gets lost with, well, AI, right? Everyone's all about AI. Talking to someone and building a relationship and booking them in the eye goes 1,000 times further than that.
Yeah, I want to say real quick, I talked with Steve about the wholesaler stuff, and the relationship is so important that Steve has actually gotten wholesale deals for people where he paid less than what another person was offering.
Oh, 100%. Because then they know I close. 2 weeks, the deal's closed, they're getting paid. And they're just the consistency of it, because they know if they keep bringing me deals, when they find a house that's totally destroyed, I'll still buy it. I'll still take care of it. We rebuild foundation walls, roofs, windows, furnaces, waterproof basements. I just don't touch fire. Just a little too hot.
Love that. Steve and myself, we've both left different career paths to be full-time investors, but I do want to point out that a lot of people say that doesn't mean that that's the right path for everyone. There's absolutely nothing wrong with continuing in your career path and just buying rentals on the side, right? So I don't feel pressured that you have to, go full-time real estate. Everyone is on their own individualistic journey in real estate, and it serves whatever need you have, right? You also don't have to build this massive portfolio. If this is just a supplementary retirement or a kid's, educational fund in the future, real estate can be whatever you want it to be. But as Amanda said, I do think it's really important to be intentional on what your goals are and to create that plan. So Jeff, superstar lender on the lending side. By the way, I think lending is the most powerful aspect of real estate, right? Like if we had $20,000 to invest, we could in the stock market. Stock market was at 5% at $1,000. Great, big, $21,000, true 5% return. We take that same $20,000, we invest in a $100,000 house. That house goes up 5%. That's $5,000 true equity. It's a 25% return on investment, right? Leverage strategically is how you can really scale your portfolio. Jeff, what are you seeing from you do a lot of investing yourself, but what are you doing? What are you seeing that your most successful clients do to get over that $10,000 a month?
And it's in prepping for this question, I've really had a chance to kind of look back at the last 10 to 15 years of working with real estate investors throughout the nation. And we land on so many different strategies, and some things come and go. And it's, we see so many fads, and it's been an interesting 5 years kind of watching the evolution of just what's occurred here since 2020. And, looking back earlier on in my career, multifamily was the space everybody wanted to be, and everybody wanted to get up to commercial. They want to start the 2-4 unit space. I've watched that evolve, say over the last 5 to 10 years into short-term rental space, now midterms. And we've helped so many people in those spaces over the years that, we ended up partnering up with Zach and his team coming out of BPCON last year in Cancun. And we've, had the chance now, obviously, to work with a lot of their current and past clients. And it's just been incredible to see how successful this strategy has been over the last, 6 to 9 months, and how many clients we've talked to, and I've talked to personally, that have come back to buy their 5th, 7th, 10th, 15th property, because it's allowed so many buyers out there and investors to maximize, the amount of the amount of properties that they could buy with the amount of capital that they have. It really allows clients to balance the cash flow versus capital preservation side of things, because we have the ability through a lot of the new builds and the flips to buy the rates down into 4s on the conventional side. On the DSCR side, we're down mid 5s, and so it's just, again, taking the incentives, as you saw the in the chart, the graph that Zach put it there, being able to utilize that and either really looking at what your goal is. What do you want to get out of this? Is it to buy as many properties as possible? Is it cash flow? And really being able to balance that to best utilize the incentives. So looking at it now, in answer to your question, Zach, I went to real estate in Alabama and Texas and some of the markets that you guys are in, utilizing the same strategies, because I see how effective it's been.
Thanks, Jeff. I want to throw you a curveball. Do interest rates matter?
That's a great question. It depends on what your goal is, because going back to what you put up on the slide, if you look at that 5% down alone, you're going to be up probably somewhere in the 9s. But if your goal is to get your foot in the door on property, it is a very effective strategy. Just knowing that cash flow is not going to be your primary goal if you do a 5% down loan. It's more of an appreciation play. Where if cash flow is more value, that is your goal, if you can put 20 to 25% down and utilize the incentives that the builders and focus are offering, you can, again, balance that out, and the rate has such a smaller impact on things. I'd be kind of trained because of the last 5 years we're all waiting for, kind of with bated breath, for rates to drop back down to the 5s, to 4s. I don't know how many people were watched Dave Meyer's presentation yesterday, but the reality is that we may not be seeing lower rates anytime soon. I mean, my feeling is we probably have room for rates to come down another quarter to a half, but I wouldn't wait for it. I wouldn't bank on it, because if we do start seeing lower rates at some point, we're just going to be trading one problem for the next, because everybody that's sitting on the sidelines heard this to jump back in, except that rates start moving down.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. High interest rates suck. It sucked for a long time.
Absolutely.
But that's some solutions to it. Mark's always chanky, right? What allows us to be successful investors is to be strategic and dynamic in our strategy. For example, right now there's a surplus of inventory from builders. That's exactly what I was talking about. That's why we can negotiate things that we could not negotiate 5 years ago, and we probably won't be able to negotiate in the future. So interest rates, yes, they matter. They're an input for your analysis, your pro forma, your cash flow. It does matter, but you have to think about other things, other dynamics that you do have control over. So if you can negotiate, like Jeff said, we have a lot of clients that are buying rates down into at this point, high 3s, low 4s, so it doesn't really matter, because you can still achieve those if you just have the right strategy. Ad, let's come back to you. We talked about the last 5 years where we're at, and no one has a crystal ball, but what do you think the next 5 years should look or will look like, and what should investors be thinking about or doing right now to set themselves up for success?
Yeah, I was just going to say you can actually use interest rates kind of as a weapon in some ways, because home buyers are looking and saying, "Oh my goodness, my rate's 6%. I'm not going to buy." But if you're coming in there and saying, "I'm paying 6.5%, but I'm getting these incentives," suddenly you're using their fear of interest rates against them. And you can always in the future, you can refi, you can just deal with it, because you're already going to be cash flowing, even if it's minimal, and you can raise your rents and do everything else. So, it's like they say in the stock market, buy when there's a web in the streets. Well, we have homeowners who are that scared about interest rates because they've been conditioned. They're thinking it's going to go down to 2.99 again. Take advantage of that. But as for the next 5 years, you really want to be looking at where the population's going and where the growth markets are going to be, because we're not going to see across the board appreciation in the country. We're already not seeing it. We've never seen across the board appreciation. And that's why we don't work in every single market, not only because of landlord laws, but I don't want to bring us properties in a market that, hey, homes are cheap, but everybody's leaving. Jobs aren't coming in. How are the laws with not just tenants, but how are the laws for businesses? That's why I love Alabama right now, and why I love Texas, is because they're doing everything they can to encourage businesses to come to their states. They're not saying we're going to tax you more. They're not saying we're going to make, harder labor laws for you or something like that. They're saying this is who we are. Come to us, and you're seeing it. So that's over the next 5 years. If you're in the right place, like Zach said, we're seeing 7, 8, 9% appreciation in a lot of these areas, just because they're the ones bringing it in. I think from 2010 to 2020, the U.S. population went up somewhere around 7%. But in a lot of the markets that we're in right now, they went up 15, 20, 25%. And when you're doing that, yes, home builders can build a lot of homes, but you've got a lot more demand for those homes. And so you're putting yourself in the path of progress. So if you do that, you're going to perform really well in your portfolio.
There you go, guys. You heard it right from Adam, the expert market analysis, or Alex. Top 3 markets. Just tell us top 3 markets.
But I got to pull out my phone for this one, because
The ChatGPT?
Yeah. Siri, because where's Reebok? So we're in Texas, and I love Texas, as I'm sure a lot of y'all do, because of the laws that are there. But I talk about population. We're in Houston, San Antonio, and Dallas. And when you look at Houston, you might think oil, but there are 26 Fortune 500 companies who are headquartered in Houston. Only New York and Chicago have more. It was the second fastest growing city in the country in 2024. And if you want to see how much is Houston growing, these suburbs that we're in, Houston, how close are they? Houston has loops. There's 610 loop, there's Beltway, there's 99 now. They just keep adding, loops of freeways around it as it keeps growing because people still want to live there, but they want to be able to get to work. I've lived there before. It takes a long time to get to work sometimes, but you get to work. San Antonio, that is about an hour and a half south of Austin, is the fourth fastest growing city in 2024. The San Antonio-Austin corridor is basically one city at this point. Yeah, you did New Braunfels, you hit Seguin, but it's essentially one city. It only takes hour 15 to get there. The 35 is right. It's about an hour. Not that we 35 is in Texas. Yeah, it's the suburbs. And if you look in just the size, but San Antonio, they don't talk about them much. You hear about the Spurs, the Heller Spar, the team. San Antonio is the 24th biggest city in the country. So it's not a small place.
I was full of stats.
Yeah. You guys have been Yeah. Yep, I got two more. So there's the Huntsville, Birmingham area, and Tuscaloosa included. Every single county in that area grew in 2024. The property taxes are low. It's about a 0.7% effective rate. A national average is somewhere around 1%. And there's a heavy manufacturing presence, which there was a 2020 U.S., Mexico, Canada compact where they basically said you have to pay your workers the same regardless of where they are. And it's about half the workforce has to be paid at least $16 an hour. And when they did that, it made the idea of moving the manufacturing to another country a lot less appetizing for companies because they could move to Mexico, they could move to Canada, but they're not going to be paying your workers less.
So is that the last one? I love Lunsdale, by the way, that corridor between Bernie and Huntsville. What I found, guys, is that we work all across the country. I invest all over. Is that real estate is really hyper local, and it's interesting to hear people talk about national statistics because sometimes that just doesn't matter. Yes, on a global scale, it does. But oh my gosh, there are so many good markets right now that have a deficit of housing and seeing strong appreciation rates. But it's really about matching the right market with your goals, right? And if you need to be receptive to looking at areas. If your local market doesn't make sense, then you need to be open to look at other areas. We're gonna move on. What's that on the market? Okay,
We're looking for cash flow. You go to Ohio.
All right, real thing of cash flow. Steve's your guy. Amanda, there's been a lot, and if you guys want more market information, Alan could go all day.
And so get Huntsville got space demand.
There you go. Come talk to Adam if you want to learn about different market stats around the U.S. Amanda, we've had some very interesting tax changes this year. I think overall positive for investors. I did personally that's going to shape a lot of the investor decisions moving forward. What do you think the next 5 years looks like for the investor landscape, and what should investors be thinking about doing right now?
I think for me, I guess for all of us here, it was not a surprise that the latest tax bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, brought back so many incentives, specifically for real estate investors, right? With 100% bonus depreciation be one of the major ones. Prior to the law change, we still had bonus depreciation, but we were writing off only up to 40% on eligible assets, and now it's at 100%. So for a lot of our clients who bought this year, the expected tax savings basically more than doubled, right, from 40 to 100. And so we have clients who, if they're able to use these losses against their rental income, which is virtually everyone, or if you can do even better to write it off against your W-2 or do them from a business, those are the clients now that are very aggressively looking to close on more properties this year. And I was chatting, earlier with a couple of our clients who are actually here in the room. Everyone is looking at where can I buy properties that are cash flowing or appreciating. We're going to buy the blue properties because we already know that from a tax perspective, it makes sense. I can save a lot of money on it. And so the next step is making sure you have the right team around you who can help you find and analyze the deals that also make sense from an investment perspective. I'm not a big market person. I'm not nearly as smart as Annie or Zach here, but I will say for me personally, every property that I have sold, I have regretted. I actually do a little self-torture where every property I own, I put it on Redfin, and I'll have it ping me every so often and let me know what the prices are, just so I know what I'm missing out on. Yes, yeah. And so for the people who are like, gosh, should I buy, should I not buy, when is it the time to buy? I agree with both of the guys here that it's really about the local market. I've seen times where in the California market, we're at the peak. But if you looked a little bit towards, on the east coast of Florida, they were still coming up to where the peak will be coming. So getting an understanding of, your specific marketplace, where you're looking, and what that is at the market cycle is super important.
I love that. And yeah, it's painful to look back to your house that tripled in price, about 10 years ago. Market dependent. But that's why real estate's long game, right? Invest for the long game.
I want to throw something out. I know I can spit market statistics, but if you really want to look and see for the next 5 years, go look at new construction permitting now. Because, there's a lot of inventory, but if you can find the markets where the permitting right now is really low, which is in a lot of different markets, then check out the laws there. Because if there's no new construction being built now, it takes a while to ramp it back up, and you put yourself in a really good situation.
That's a great pro tip. I love that now. See, what does the next 5 years look like?
I think the markets that are stable, like in Akron, anything in the Midwest, will continue to slowly appreciate. Some of the other, I think, each markets, high Airbnbs are gonna see that fractionating value, I think, over the next 5 years. So come to Akron.
Jeff, what do you see? And I want you to add another layer on this as well. Like, lending is always changing. I mean, it's exhausting, honestly. Like, so many loan options. But one thing we can do as investors to be strategic is just to educate ourselves and be aware, like, what are the options out there, right? What are the options that we have? That way we can make an educated decision on what is the best loan option that fits our goals. It's not always just a conventional Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, 20% down loan. But literally we'll run out of those over time. So you do need to be receptive. And most of our investors that we're seeing, myself included, we're closing DSCR loans right now. It's a strange time when your DSCR loans are like better or comparable terms to a conventional loan, right? So what do you think the next 5 years looks like, Jeff, in the lending space as well as the real estate?
It's a great question. And to add to what you said at the beginning, it is a constant roller coaster ride in our industry, keeps us on our toes. And, us that are in it, love it and would change it for the world. For the
Jack said build performance.
Yeah. No, you're right. Anyways, going back to the next 5 years. So, it's hard to know where things are going to be in the next 5 months. Let's be honest. 5 years is a long timeline. And when it comes to the lending side, we've seen so many changes, like Zach was saying, where it's, there's a period of time where there wasn't a lot of these creative products. We go back 10 years ago, there was no DSCR loan for residential real estate. So you got to keep in mind, this was a commercial real estate product. It's going to run forever. It's how all the big deals get done. And it's got adapted to residential real estate for business purposes only. So we saw the evolution of that. And then because of the success with some of these products, like that and the asset qualifier and the business bank statement loan, all of the investment banks on Wall Street have jumped into the space because they're chasing returns. And as a result of it, we've seen rates come down significantly in this space and options open up that just weren't available years ago. And it's really been over the course of the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 years where we see so much momentum in this space because it's been such a high-performing asset class on the secondary market, so easily securitized and sold, that we're seeing more and more money come in. And I think the evolution going forward, it could always change, obviously. I think it can change on a dime, but as long as we continue to see a strong economy and we don't end up in a deeper recession, we'll probably still see these types of programs expand. Rates continue to improve because of all of the money that's been dumped into the secondary market, and which will make things easier for real estate investors. For instance, we've had the 30-year fixed 10-year interest only option really open back up in a big way here over the last year or two, where, I was just back on the main podcast with Dave Meyer here a few weeks ago, and we talked specifically about this program, and I was shocked with the response that people didn't even realize this program existed. And what it is, it's a 30-year fixed program that's fixed for 30 years, the rate never changes. But for the first 10 years, it gives you the option of either making an interest-only payment or making a principal and interest payment. And so we've been doing a lot of these with rent to retirement, a lot of their clients where there's two directions with this program specifically where you can look at it from one perspective of, just if your goal is to maximize cash flow, it's going to check that box because you're not going to get better cash flow on a conventional or any type of principal and interest loan that you are an interest only. Alternatively, the loan really gives you the flexibility to utilize it. This is the way I recommend using it, as more of a cash flow management tool where don't make the interest only payment every single month. If you can make a principal and interest payment, really getting in the habit of doing that. But then as you start to build your portfolio, buy more properties, let's say you have a tenant or two that moves out or some large CapEx expenditures that come up, you have the flexibility of making an interest only payment, really managing your cash flow, using it as a tool where you just don't have that flexibility with conventional loans or even principal and interest DSCR loans, because if you don't make that full P&I payment, you're late. And so this gives you an option here. So it's one of the programs that we've really rolled out that's been very effective.
How many people knew that program existed? I did. I mean, this is why I need a investor lender in your corner. One thing I always tell people, if you're building your real estate portfolio, it's about building, to be successful, it's about building your dream team, right? And one thing I always ask my CPA, my attorney, high lender, is my property managers, like, do you own rental real estate? Okay, what does your portfolio look like? And they better own real estate if I'm the hire, right? Because I want someone who understands what I'm trying to do. I don't like people that tell me you can't do this. I want people to say, this is how you do this. And I think that's important that you find the right people. Every single one of these subject matter experts and professionals are real estate investors as well, right? I just want to keep that in mind. I mean, as we grow our portfolio, how many times do I hear people say, "Oh, I got the CPA, but for I don't know real estate. I don't know what we're doing." Like, find a better with it. So find, word with a man. I don't know, but I want to come back to this. We just got a few minutes left, guys. I definitely want to get some questions from the audience. Guys, is there any questions from the audience? I could keep going. Okay.
So on your slide, it said that the 1031 exchange, you can exchange for 3 properties after appreciation. Based on my knowledge, it says that the 1031 exchange needs to be for equal or greater value. But on your slide, could it be done for the same value, but for cheaper homes? So for multiple homes with the same down payment?
Okay, that's question 1.
That's question. Question 2 for Mr. Jeff.
Well, let me answer that one first.
Sure.
So, and Amanda's the tax professional. I am not. But yeah, 1031 exchanges, it's equal or greater value. It really doesn't matter how much real estate. It's an individual property. I mean, we even have people that do things that 1031 into mineral rights. You can do it, not really land, but it has to be equal or greater value. It has to be like-kind real estate, but it's real estate for real estate. Income-producing properties, but you need to buy as much as the initial property they sold for, right?
It could be multiple.
And you could be multiple, could be one. In fact, our most common 1031 exchange, did you guys know that most 1031 exchanges fail? And really why that is because people are trying to buy from multiple sellers. Like the typical 1031 that we see is someone in California that has $1 million house, they sell it, they can't cash flow there. They want to go to, the Midwest or Southeast. They want to cash flow, they buy 5 houses. Trying to coordinate that with 5 different sellers is like pretty cats. It's chaos. And one seller can sabotage you where if they don't close a deal, you've already bought 4, like it can be tough. So let's go to the next question.
Next question for Amanda. So what's the sweet spot for the cost segregation and appreciation? Is there to be the most tax efficient? Is there a sweet spot until you have to exchange to the next property?
So for cost segregation, I think one of the most common problems I see is CPAs telling the investor that it's only for large properties. For your properties, it's going to be too expensive to do, or it's not the right property to do. But the simplest thing you can do is to ask them to give you a cost benefit, right? So I know you're saying it's expensive, but what is the cost benefit on this specific property that I'm looking at? The sweet spot is going to differ for taxpayer to taxpayer. If you're someone who's in a high tax bracket, then you can use it to offset taxes. Even a $50,000 or $100,000 additional depreciation could make sense. If you're someone who does not have taxable income that year, I might say let's hold off because we can always choose the year when we do the cost segregation. So maybe no income this year, but high income next year, then we could consider waiting until next year to do the cost segregation on that same property.
Makes sense. Thank you. Last question, Mr. Jeff. if you have a W-2 job and you already have a conventional loan, right? So you are allowed to have up to 45% of your monthly income, right? That's a conventional 50%. But would that be the same case with your loans as well, or not? Or it would be counted as something brand new that does not have anything to do with the banks?
That's a great question. So looking at it from a conventional perspective, it's a 50 max DTI. So, we're looking at in that scenario, your gross income and then taking any payments, mortgage payments, any of your car payments, stuff like that, that's reporting on credit. And then the max is going to be 50%. The other program I was talking about, the interest only, that's a DSCR loan. We're not looking at your W-2 or your paychecks, your tax returns. We're literally treating the property as a business and looking at looking at the cash flow analysis of the business. And as long as the projected rent is covering the mortgage payment, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, or in the interest only option, the ITI, so the interest, taxes, and insurance, then you have a cash rent property, and it's very easy to qualify for. And we're not asking for pay stubs and tax returns.
So technically, there's no limit as long as the numbers make sense.
Correct. Yeah. So on the conventional side, you have a limit of 10 finance properties. On the non-conventional side, like the DSCR loan, there's no limit. And that's how investors scale it beyond that 10 finance property.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Thank you for the question.
Also with the DSCR loans, it makes your life so much easier. There's so much less paperwork. As you grow your real estate portfolio, having to get everything ready for the conventional loan can be an absolute nightmare. It's so much easier with DSCR.
Yeah, and what we found too is like buying light properties, especially if they're leased, if the cash flow makes sense, like that it will be basically an offset for your DTI. So if you have the down payment and you can afford multiple properties, we always get the question of like, how does this affect like a DTI? You should be buying properties, at least the ones that we facilitate. The DTI is offset by the rental income. And then over time, as you report that it's on your taxes, you can actually use that to qualify for more.
Staten Island, New York. All right. Probably a question for Amanda. If you are retired and you then qualify as a real estate professional, can you take all your depreciation against your IRA withdrawals?
Oh, and good question. So if you are a real estate professional, then your rental losses, assuming you have losses from depreciation, cost segregation, they do offset all different types of taxable income. And so, yes, that does include retirement income. What it doesn't offset is if you are taking early distributions, for example, then it will offset any penalties associated. But assuming you're already beyond that penalty phase, then yes, it does usually offset retirement distribution income as well. And one quick thing, what we sometimes have clients do is if you have more losses than you do retirement income, right? So you're taking more loss than the required minimum. We also look at ways for the client to start converting pre-tax money to Roth. Because if it's otherwise, I have itemized deductions and other expenses that don't carry forward, I can then absorb that by strategically converting some money into the Roth bucket as well.
Thank you.
The last question I have for the panel is, and try to answer this quickly, what is the number one thing you think that separates out successful from unsuccessful real estate investors? And success is measured by those who accomplish their goals.
Consistent buy and not being afraid to buy at any point in time.
For me, I think the ability to leverage. In real estate, we talk about leveraging loans, but what I see in successful investors is the ability to leverage expertise as well. Expertise of people who can find you the deals, who can get the loans done, your CPAs, your attorneys, because we cannot be a jack of all trades yourself. And so if you have the right team and you can leverage their expertise, that's how you can scale fast.
Yeah, I think leaning into the team that you build, whether you're buying rental properties and that's your property manager, or you're flipping houses and that's your crews you're using, you're not going to be able to do everything and scale quickly to hit your goals. I think consistency and just having the right person to do each item. You don't want to send your electrician to do the plumbing, right? So you make sure you have skilled people at each trade. You don't necessarily have to do everything yourself.
We got two things. So the first one's planning. Getting very clear about what your goals are and figuring out what your buy box is and getting good at analyzing deals. Second thing is execution, just the ability to be able to make a decision and get out of the analysis paralysis. I mean, we're all human and we all struggle with it. The clearer you get on your goals and your buy box, what you want to get accomplished out of real estate investing, the easier it's going to be to pull the trigger when the right deal comes around.
Can I say one more? I think it's really important to not look for the cheapest option as well. It's worth spending an extra little bit of money if you can save a lot more money and work with the right people.
There it is. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. This is our dream team. Go and build your own dream team. Come by the Rent to Retirement booth and have an exceptional last day of your conference. Thanks so much.
Thanks for watching the Rent to Retirement YouTube channel. Check out some of our other videos, like this one, or this one here.